Welcome everybody to this event. We're going to hear from 5 speakers today, and they'll all have a 10-minute speech, and then after that you can have questions after each speech. An early whistleblower to this early ridiculous tax was Rob Armstrong from Ararat, the 5th generation farmer. He organised a rally in Melbourne on May the 20th earlier this year to object to the volunteer tax. Thousands turned out in protest, along with hundreds of CFA fire trucks. It was a great awakening to many city people unaware of the plight of our farmers. Our farmers are 1% of the population, but they provide 100% of our food. Asked on national television if farmers were angry, he replied they're beyond angry. They're hurting to the point of despair. We also had an early whistleblower here in Gippsland who did a Facebook post labelled "I'm angry" and received thousands of people supporting his cry at this audacious tax. So let me introduce to you to BK or Councillor Brendan Hingwell, a born and bred Gippslander.
For those that don't know me, my name's Brendan Hingwell. Born and bred on a dairy farm in Yarragon. My father was the self-proclaimed Mayor of Shady Creek, so that gives me a royal blood, I guess. But I've also been in business now for 25 years here in Trafalgar and Yarragon, and business in a few other regional areas. So small business is my passion, and I'm your recently elected East Ward councillor for Blackwell Shire. Now the East Ward makes up pretty much 95% of the council, which is obviously a lot of farms. Other than a bit on this river here, but pretty much all the farms are in the East Ward. So why are we here today? I wish we were here. I genuinely wish we were here to hand out some awards. You know, for a firefighter that's gone busting through a flaming door to save a goldfish, or just here to celebrate the efforts our CFA have done in our community. I wish we were here to just say thank you. But we're not. We're not. We're here trying to fight for our own survival. So I'm going to do something with Victorian government. Actually, we've got some CFA people in the room here. Yeah. Well, just want to say that what the Victorian government won't say, and that is thank you. We really appreciate your efforts, and hopefully they continue. But hey, it's not all about you guys. This tax is going to affect us all. So I'm going to touch upon today about how it's going to be affecting small business and some of the challenges small businesses are seeing at the moment. The small businesses in our regional areas need our primary producers to thrive. We need them spending their money into the communities. We need them volunteering at the CFA. We need them volunteering at our local working bees. Our farmers have contributed a lot to our community. Historically, playgrounds and things were built in our towns from the efforts of our farmers. And at the moment we're going through a drought. And we've all experienced droughts before. And you can see the people sitting in Spring Street looking out the window and saying, oh, it's raining, the drought's over. But we know it doesn't work that way. It can take years to recover from debt for the farmers. It can take years for the farm to recover itself. It can take years for the community to recover. So it doesn't end just because there's a little bit of rain. The small business sector is facing a lot of challenges at the moment. We're seeing interest rate increases, which often drives up our rents. The utility and power prices have gone through the roof, and I know we're all experiencing that. We've seen the wage and superannuation rates increase to the small business sector, and we've seen a decrease in revenue due to a cost of living crisis, which has been driven by the government. The small business sector employs around 60% of the Australian population, so it's a major contributor. That's around about 15,000 jobs in Bulbor that are employed through small business. Now we see around the world at the moment there's conflicts in the Middle East, there's conflicts in Ukraine, there's conflicts or potential conflicts in Asia, but we've actually got our own conflict here. At the moment our regional areas are under attack. Our timber industry is under attack. Our gas industry is under attack. Our coal industry is under attack. Our tourism through our national parks is under attack. Our small business sector, through all these new taxes, is under attack. Our family and Christian values, I say that on Sunday, I'm sure I'm holding somebody who's out of church at the moment, is now under attack. And now our farming communities are under attack. But the government's got the power to help us. And this is the way they think they can help us. They've introduced a new ute tax. Who uses utes? Farmers, tradies, small business sector. They've introduced a new superannuation tax. Now a lot of farmers will have their farms and their super accounts, so they're going to be subject to that. Obviously the fire levy tax. We're still pushing what are really unachievable green energy dreams. We've got overspending by our governments at all levels, which is causing higher interest rates. But the tax department's there to help us, aren't they? So the tax department now has increased the penalty rates for overdue taxes. They've got a new aggressive approach to try to reclaim some of their money, which is none of this is helping at all. And now they're considering getting rid of the surcharges. You see, small business, they're not asking the banks to reduce their costs, they're asking small businesses to wear them. I'll give you a live example of how it affects. Some of you may or may not know that I actually own the old post office here in Trafalgar. And it runs as its individual business and it gets an income. So for every $1 that building receives, I pay income tax, I pay rates, I pay GST, I pay land tax, I pay a fire services levy, and I pay an Airbnb tax. That's 6 taxes on every $1, and 50% of them are new. So you can see why we're in a bit of the mess that we're in today. But I just want to touch upon what happens when a small business goes broke or closes its doors. Staff lose their job. Okay, but we're lucky here in Australia because we've got a safety net for employees. It's called the unemployment benefits, or if you're my age, we used to call it the dog. The owner, there's no safety net for them. They could lose their house. They could end up bankrupt. They will have trouble getting future finance. They'll have long-term debt repayments. And these sort of things start causing family breakdowns, mental health issues, and that constant stigma around failure. So a business going broke, it's not, we go past, they've shut their doors, wasn't a good idea, their hours weren't good. But someone's dream is just being destroyed. Someone's livelihood has just been destroyed. In the last 12 months, the highest number of small businesses have gone broke and closed their doors, ever recorded. That's a higher rate than even during the global financial crisis. There's been an 85% increase in requests for help to the ATO, and we just heard how they try to help us. Victoria now has the second slowest growth rate in Australia. So it's around about 7,500 businesses closed the last 12 months. And they're hanging on by a thread. And then some of the things that the small business sector are doing is not paying their insurances and things like that to try and keep themselves alive. So that can create further problems down the track. But what can we do? And I think today's a great, well, it's not a start. This is part of the process. We need to support each other, make sure we're supporting our farmers, make sure we're checking on their health. We need to keep this issue alive, because if we go quiet, there'll be another new tax introduced. And we need to vote these people out. We need to encourage other people to vote them out. We do have a Liberal national government that have committed to removing the tax. So again, just in conclusion, I want to again thank our CFA workers and our farmers. You guys run towards danger while I go running away and lay in a fetal position somewhere under a tree to get away from it. I thank the CFA and our farmers for their continued support of our local communities. As I said, they're always the first to turn up to the working bees. I thank you for shopping locally when you can. And I thank you for standing up for issues like this and supporting others. My message to the Victorian Government is don't bite the hand that feeds you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, if anyone has any questions, there's one down there. I'll bring the mic down.
Feel free not to ask any questions.
So if you can repeat the question first.
Hello, Council. I'm going to ask you this as a councillor.
Okay, I'll change hats.
Sorry?
I'll just change my hat.
So, this is there's a couple of questions lined up. So, the levy is going to be based on capital value of properties.
Yep.
Council is the one who puts up the capital value properties.
Ooh, you're getting deep for me, aren't you?
Yep. Council's also put up their rates this year.
Yep.
But there's no complaining or we won't do that. So it's going to be a double barrel. We'll put everyone's rates up and they're going to get hit the levy. So why is it hot calling the kettle black that it's okay for us to do this, but this isn't good? I agree, the levy is exceptionally higher.
Yep.
But the other thing I want to focus on too, and I raised this at the council meeting when this all came forward, was I love my farmers. I have them for clients, friends. I live on a dairy farm. I love my CFA. But this is for everyone. And to me, this is a bit of a divide approach as well, because people think, oh, it's business and it's farmers and it's CFA and it's not everyday mum and dad and tenant and domino effect. So I know it's a very loaded and barreled question, but a lot of this comes back to council and obviously councillors' input as to why is it okay for council to do increases which will also on-flow to the levy and just complain about the levy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really great point, Sam. Firstly, we saw a lot of local councils in Victoria. There's a rate cap, so there's a maximum any rates that can go up, which was, I think, was set at 3%. So we saw a lot of councils actually apply to the government to increase above that. Now, we obviously had the discussion about what we're going to do, because council, and we've looked at council as a business, it has the same price increases as everybody else. So yes, we're reviewing a lot of services at the moment to try to get our costs and running costs down. This council group now been in for 7 months, so we're looking at ways of trying to get our expenditure down as much as possible because of that reason. If we had our way, and I mean this, if we had our way, and as probably every council in here says, if we could halve the rates and double the services, that's where we would be happy to be. But unfortunately, the services that we provide that are fundamental to the community, there are services we provide that aren't, and they're the ones that we're running reviews on at the moment to try to save those sort of monies. And you're right about the fact that this does impact everybody. And at the moment, and particularly when we start looking into the city areas, they don't see that as their issue. They only see it as a regional Victoria issue. But it's a regional Victoria that's actually getting the brunt of it.
Not so much a question, I just want to pick up on a point that was made about council setting the CIV on your rates.
Yep.
Councils do not set the CIV on your rates. It's set through the state Governor-General. It's independent of council. So you've basically got the state government setting the CIV and then the state government setting the rates in which the taxes get applied against that CIV. So, it's a one-stop shop for tax collections through the state government. The CIV is not through local government.
Thanks, Aaron.
Question in the front here.
Don't forget, we've got Councillor Lucas here that's going to be happy to fly.
Brendan, it was just a simple question.
Yep.
If you're saying it's wrong, it's wrong. What's your answer to solve it? Do we not pay it? Or do we stop paying rates? Do we stop paying the whole thing?
No, so the Victorian government's been very clever. Not just not all, but a lot of councils throughout Victoria have gone to seek legal advice on what they can do. A lot of people have said, okay, we'll pay our rates, but not the fire levy portion, and we get a lot of those things. But the Victorian government has been very clever and has closed those loopholes. So any percentage paid is actually a percentage of their money. We have explored what we can do. We're also watching some of the other councils in their responses as well. So what we need to do in the meantime is just keep making noise, because if we let things go to bed, then there'll be a new tax turn up somewhere else.
Why don't we all not pay and go together? They open for us
stand together.
Yeah, and you're right. There's strength in numbers, and that's what this thing's all about. It's about bringing people together, keeping the issue alive. And yes, there may be a council that turns around and says, "That's it. We're not sending you any of the money." The worst thing about it to me is the money's just not coming back to us. We're not getting new fire trucks. We're not getting better services. In fact, actual fact, they've cut the amount of money they're bringing back into these groups. They're charging us more. So there's no way of disguising the fact that this is just a money grab. It is just a pure money grab. And you're right. We need to stay together as a community and keep on voicing our opinion.
Okay, one more, Darren.
Sorry about this, I don't want to hold the microphone, but yeah, for those people who don't know me, my name's Darren Wallace. I'm a board member with Volunteer Fire Brigades Victoria. It's the peak body that looks after volunteers throughout the whole state. With regards to the money grab, Brendan's absolutely right. The state government continually say they're supporting volunteers by increasing the budget every year, which is just simply not the fact. The CFA budget has decreased for 5 years running, and this year they've been a little bit tricky. The new tax now is set down in legislation. It needs to fund 95% of the CFA budget. That figure has been posted, with the other 5% coming from just general revenue out of CFA. There is a $9 million cut to CFA budget in this year's budget. So this tax, none of it's going to CFA or volunteers. It's just a blatant money grab.
There is a stewardship of ownership for what you have in the Shire, and yes, there is a large volunteer group. You know, they're not just CFA, they come in all walks and shapes and sizes and so forth. But what I'm concerned about is there isn't a great pushback from anybody at a really hard level. So waiting to see what others do, wouldn't it be nice to lead by example?
Yeah, absolutely. We're on the front foot right from the start. I put up a social media post there when I first got wind of it, and most of my social media posts, nobody really cares what I've got to say, but you get a couple hundred people view it and all that. And I put up a post about this fire levy and it got 38,000 views. So that told me that this is a really important issue. I thought you'd congratulate me on the 38,000 views. I'm raising the council and every 10 pence I get. It's also important not to keep reinventing the wheel as well. And they're right, there is the MAB, there is the peak bodies that are fighting on behalf of all councils, so it is a coordinated approach. Some councils are stronger on the issue than others. Some councils have actually come out and supported it. Obviously they're not in the regional areas. It is important that we just keep the issue alive, because the minute we let this go to sleep, we've had a loss.
Because Gippsland can't even get a West Gippsland hospital renewed, and you've got a hospital that has leaks when there's a rainstorm in 5 areas. That's appalling.
There's issues right around this. Like the Balboa Shire, if you take Warringah River, that's the fastest growing city in Australia. If you get one to the fastest growing city in Australia, and we cannot get funding for infrastructure. And then we'll see other shires, getting $2 million to put an umbrella stand up out in a park. It's driving us insane. We're reviewing how we're doing things to make sure that we can get our share of the resources, because we're getting forced to grow by the state government, and our infrastructure and our services are not staying up to speed, and we're aware of that. There's a long history of just not getting what you'd say is our fair share. So hopefully the councils we got on board can sort of rally together and fight a little bit harder and get what we need. It's like, a lot of you folks are out there in our ward, and the roads are crumbling. The sporting grounds aren't up to scratch. We're spending money repairing things when we actually should be getting them replaced, and that would actually save on a maintenance budget. Okay. All right.
Anyone need anything?
Thank you very much.
This is like a good old-fashioned council meeting. I'd also like to thank we've got some ex-councillors at the back there too, as well as some current councillors, so thank you very much. Councillor Lucas was the first councillor to put the motion forward to object to this tax. It was a unanimous decision in front of a packed council meeting, and Ben had some heartbreaking stories from farmers. But we've also got some heartbreaking stories from other parts of the country, and I'll call on Trev to come. There was a film made last year called Just a Farmer. I don't know whether people have seen it, but there's a short clip we're going to show now, and Trev will just fill a little bit in the background of how this film was made.
Thank you, Rick. Has anyone heard of the movie Just a Farmer? Terrific. An amazing young woman who is a farmer, not a filmmaker, decided that the mental health of farmers needed to be into a movie, and she decided she'd make the movie. She even found out how much screenwriters cost, and she couldn't afford a screenwriter, so she decided to write the screenplay herself. She found out how much actresses cost, and they cost too much money, so she decided to act in it. She's an amazing human being. She's put together a feature-length movie, and it is definitely worth the showing. She and her husband hopped the farm for another $500,000 to fund the movie. So she's funded it, she's produced it. We would like, if there's enough interest here, I'd like to bring it, this group would like to bring it to the Warragul Cinema Complex so that we can all come along and have a look at it. And so there's no charge for that. This woman's invested $500,000 of her time and her money, and she needs to get some of that back. So we're happy to chase the money if you're happy to sign up for it, or at least say you'll be there. So now give me a show of hands. Who'd like to have a look at it? Terrific. Please have a look at the Australian story and we'll take it from there. Thanks, Rick.
I didn't choose this life. I was born to live it. So was Dad, his dad, and his dad before that.
Come on, ladies.
You're supposed to be slowing down, you know.
It's payback for all the free labour you got out of me as a kid.
Ah.
I learned from watching my mum and dad and how they work together. So does my sister Sally.
Any trains? Righto. Feet up.
I'll always remember these days. It's the happiest days of my life. Together as a family.
Oh, you're so lucky I love you.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that about right, is it?
I don't know how you're going to deal with all this.
Deal with what?
$6 million debt?
Most farmers are in this amount of debt. As farmers, we gamble with the weather every day, and it's a risk we take.
You have no idea what I'm going through.
Maybe you should talk to someone.
Oh my God, no, I'm fine.
No, you're not, Alison.
You and your dad's a coward.
Play a game of footy, all right?
Where's heaven?
What?
Where's heaven?
The sky, I think.
Can we go there?
This is an important film. If we can get more people involved in it, we'd love to get everyone there to the Warragul Cinema. And so just reminding there's a QR code that Trev's got around the walls and also on the front desk. Also another clip from a great farmer in Donald. And this fellow was, I think he epitomises what he talks about farmers being a community and the need for farmers to have your best mate as your neighbour and how we support each other through
I'm
this.
Tim Hepworth, better known as Spud, and I'm a fourth generation farmer on this farm. Kelvin will be the fifth generation, and Nathan, his son, who's just left school, will be the sixth generation. To see something go through like a power line or mineral sands or something, that'd just break your heart, to see it all smashed up. And we've fought to keep this place through droughts and floods, and just every 5 or 6 years we get a bad year, and being a farmer, you just know how to get through those bad years. And so it's just meant everything to me. All my life, that's all it's been, the farm. Farmers are the greatest naturalist people in the world, because if they don't look after their ground, well, it's gone. And it's the same as if you don't look after your wife, she'll be gone too, won't she? And land's exactly the same. Some people are wanting windmills, other people are not wanting them, and they don't tell each other what's going on, and then they're squabbling and fighting, and it never happened years ago. The farmers always went to their neighbour before they'd done anything, and it's all gone out of the back window. It's all like as if it's money. The money's the big thing with them, and the companies are throwing cash at them left, right and centre, and they're not thinking about the friendship that's over the 100 years that they've been there. They're not thinking about the friendship that their forefathers brought together, and now this family's not talking to family members, and it's bad. It's bringing a big division in amongst the population, and we can't afford to have too many people not being friends in the country, because that's what it's all about.
And so, and also Ben, when I went to the meeting at the Blackwell Shire a while back, spoke to a lot of the farmers that he knew, and were coming to him and saying what we can do. So let's put our hands together for Ben. We'll share more about what's happening here.
G'day everyone, thanks for having me. Firstly, I'll just start off with my t-shirt. I call this my battle shirt. I swapped this with an American Marine when I was over in Hawaii on exercise for Impact 2012, and I was stuck on a battleship for about 3 months. It was awful. But a lot of good training in that while I was an infantry soldier in the 1st Battalion, Royal Australian Regiment. And it says front toward enemy, which is what's placed on a claymore. And a claymore, if you don't know, is it's about a couple of bricks big, and you sit it out in a defensive position facing the most likely enemy approach. And when they're coming in, you press the clacker and off they go. But during the Vietnam War, the VC used to come up onto those claymores and actually spin them around. So that's why they're now, or since then, got front towards enemy. And I had this t-shirt sitting in an old bag in my wardrobe for a long time after I got out of the army. And it wasn't until 2020, 2021 where I refound this shirt and put it on and went into Melbourne and went to many of the rallies for the shutdowns after COVID. So this isn't my first rodeo when it comes to this sort of stuff. I believe in truth, fairness, what's right, those good Australian values that we all live by, and everyone in here can live by. I can see that. I grew up, or I got raised by a farm, not on a farm, in Shady Creek. Every school holidays I'd go out there to my pa and Trish's farm, Trishcombe Herefords, and it's where I first learned how to drive a manual car when we were doing hay cutting when I was about 10. Went through floods, went through drought, stock market crashes and falls. Used to go out to the old Warrigal sale yards, and as a little kid I'd give everyone the shits by running around up the top while they were doing the auctions, and we'd go get a 2-piece speed with my grandpa. And that's probably where I learned a lot of resilience and my work ethic. These hands are dirty and they know how to wield a shovel, and I've done that since I was a young kid. But farming is something integral that we've been doing for 200 years in this country, putting food on plates. And this tax almost seems like it's a bit of a performance punishment because you guys can actually put up with it. It was interesting, and I'll tell you some of the stories later, when I was calling farmers for about 4 hours the day before the ESB came to the council. And even though a lot of farmers are stretched to the limit right now, the N words were, she'll be right though. And I think that speaks a lot to farmers' resilience and how they deal with things. Governments of all levels, including council, should be about enablement, not asphyxiation. I find the bureaucratic red tape myself very frustrating as a councillor, because before I'm a councillor I'm Ben Lucas, and I like freedom, I love it, so much so that I would have gone to war for it. And now I find myself in this different position, fighting a different battle in a different way, using words as weapons instead of bullets. And it's extremely frustrating when you get certain politicians who are selected, not elected. And I feel that when in council we're very much elected by the people. You put your mandate out there and everyone decides whether they like you or not. But when it comes to the state government, you've got these beady-eyed politicians that have never worked a day in their life telling us from the castle in Melbourne how we're going to run things down here, how we're going to use our land out in state forests, how we're going to farm, how much they're going to tax us. And in Victoria, we've got 33 taxes at the moment. And then when it comes to this new ESV, only 3% of that collected is going to go to the front line where it's needed the most. I went down the other day to the Warragul SES after a council meeting and just had a chat to those guys. And I get a little bit embarrassed when I walk around places with Councillor Ben Lucas on my chest. I feel like a flog, to be honest. But talking to those guys, they were actually really thankful and loved that I was there having a chat to them, and previously the councillors had already gone down there. But they're so underfunded, it's not funny. They're limited in their trucks. They're using old Toyota Land Cruisers. They don't have the capability to be able to do what they've done, and they got the most call-outs ever in history last year, over 1,000. So not just the CFA, but everyone needs our support. Brendan touched on it before, but when it comes to small business, there's no incentive to be involved in small business in this state at all. I know developers that are going up to Queensland now because they've opened the gates and made it available for them to do so because the government's taken a step back, which is what they should. Enablement over asphyxiation. About a year ago, I opened up a wellness centre in Warragul called the Zen Den, and I've got to move it. I can't afford the rent, and I'm propping up my income from the gym to support this business. And there's no leeway. I've got 140 grand tax debt myself that I'm trying to deal with and trying to make ends meet with and have sleepless nights about. So small business for me and for the farmers is very similar, and I know how you feel. I empathise with that. And this is all just to pay for city infrastructure, if I'm honest, and that'll pop up in a sec. So here's a few parts of my speech that I gave on the ESV in council during May. So I was feeling gutted after speaking to farmers yesterday. These guys were absolutely reluctant to be named. Farm A has 1,000 acres with 1,000 head of dairy cattle. He pays over 10,000 a year in rates at one property and over 60,000 at another, thanks to the state imposed PSP. This season is uncharacteristically dry, and he is already under the pump. Farmer B owns a 200-acre farm and leases an extra 300 acres. He runs 600 head of dairy cattle. He pays $9 grand in rates per year. But the real killer is the extra $200,000 of feed that he would have bought by the end of the year to keep up with to keep the farm afloat. This bloke is very much worried for the farming and ag industry as a whole, and asked when and how he is coping in the current climate. He said, "I'm meeting with the bank manager tomorrow." And then he nervously laughed. Farmer C is located near Truff and already paying more than $30,000 a year in rates. He said there is usually 400 kilos of dry feed in the paddocks per hectare. At this time of year, currently, there is 160. That's less than half. Usually there has been 14 millimetres of rain in this month alone. As of yesterday, there was 1. And this is just a few issues. From those farmers that I've talked to that were pretty reluctant to talk and be named, and I know there's plenty of stories in here. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. So just a few stats of the dairy industry alone in Gippsland. Employs over 6,000 people across 1,028 farms. 1.9 billion litres of milk produced per year at a farm gate value of 1.3 billion per year. Employing an extra 3,600 people in dairy processing alone. Look, I could go on about it, and the microeconomy is really important to us. We don't make anything anymore. We've got no real industry. We don't build cars. We don't have white goods. We don't have a textile industry anymore. Did that go off? I'm in a flow. So we don't make anything anymore, and then that means, as what we see down in Latrobe Valley, we don't have industry, so then people aren't spending their money in town, in businesses, and their kids aren't playing sport in those towns. So it's a massive flow-on effect. A few of us councillors have copped a little bit of heat over this and certain things that I also talk about and a vote that happened this week as well. But I can 110% tell you that I can't be bought, I can't be sold, and I won't be silenced. Thanks.
Any questions? Yes, Peter. Come up.
Thanks, Rick. For those that don't know me, my name is Peter Costos. I've been in the livestock industry since I was 18 years of age. I've been selling you the good and the bad, or selling you cattle over all the last 40 years. I've told, as I said, I've told you the good, I've told you the bad, and this current tax potentially going to happen is bad. Now, for all the farmers that actually own property, I fully understand the extra cost that they're going to come by, but it's a downflow. As you said, Ben, it comes back to what people spend in the shops. I sold my last farm 6 years ago, and I now own cattle and I pay adjustment. So that farmer is going to cop an increased tax, I'll cop an increased adjustment price, or if someone's leasing a farm, it's going to be the same thing. So probably two things will happen. People will stop leasing properties, or people will stop existing properties, which potentially will affect the income for those farms as well. And it's a whole flow down from the way to go. Currently at the moment, the livestock industry is having some of the best prices we've had over the course of time. That's all going to be eroded by potentially the money they're going to have to pay out in this tax. So thank you, Ben, for this movement, and I just hope that it is get scrapped and life may go on a little bit better. Thank you.
One more.
Sorry, this is going to be my last one. I've got to go. So I really need to get this one in before I go. So this tax, it actually is a tax that doesn't need to exist. It's a $650 million a year tax, and the government has posted a $600 million surplus this year. So in simple terms, they could have scrapped the tax and still posted a minor surplus, so not needed. With regards to this $650 million collected, 50% of it will go to Fire Rescue Victoria. That's the old MFB, so the Melbourne Metropolitan Fire Brigade. That's not a rural service, that's a purely city service. We do have a couple of FRB stations here in Mowing Hall and Traralgon. 20% of the funding will go to CFA, 5% goes to SES, and the other 25% goes to a collection of 7 government services that were traditionally funded out of general revenue, like Forest Fire Management, 000 Victoria, Emergency Management Operations, Emergency Recovery Victoria, Emergency Management Victoria, Emergency Alert Program, and the State Control Centre. So these were all services that were existed funded out of general revenue that have now gone on to this one, which has allowed the government to free up $600 million out of general revenue and post as a surplus. So not needed. There's only one way to remove this tax, and that's through the people that actually put it in place. So the current Labor government and the crossbenchers that enabled it. So pick up the phone, send emails, text, Harriet Shingall and all the local Labor state government, upper house and lower house, get onto them. They're the only ones that can undo this. Thank you.
Just while we're waiting for the microphone to go around, Peter at the back, I've never actually been able to say to you publicly a massive thank you. For everyone in the room, when I went through my shit in 2020 and the council was told not to speak to me, and a lot of people didn't, and the organisation just dropped me and ran, Peter picked up the phone repetitively and caught up with me just for a coffee, just to see how I was. So that's the sort of bloke that he is, and that's the sort of bloke and people that we are in here. You go down in the city and people virtue signal and want all the attention of being a good person. That's what it's all about.
Just a question. What do people know about the unrealised capital gains tax that they're proposing to bring in?
I don't think people actually really know a lot. I personally haven't been overly educated on myself. There's so much going on, but my landlord the other day at the gym who was talking to me, and he goes, "Do you reckon I'm going to be paying for it?" And it had it said as a bit of a joke, but he goes, "You are, mate." Yeah. So it's all going to be filtered down, and close your ears, kids, but shit flows downhill, and us at the bottom are getting it.
That's what I'm getting at. I think everyone needs to find out more about that unrealised capital gains tax.
Yeah.
It's just a Trojan horse, and
there's a loophole in it.
but I would suggest everyone get a bit more knowledge about it.
Yeah. Well, just recently the state announced $23 million in drought relief. Thanks for that. But a level crossing removal in Melbourne cost $150 million. So they don't mind doing a whole heap of that down there. It feels like Melbourne Castle is looking over all us peasants down in the paddocks, and we have to fund them.
Two quickie ones, Red. One, I know councillors are not supportive of this. Is council, the Department of State Government, supporting the local area, or are they standing by Melbourne? Because council and councillors are two separate entities.
Yeah, no. In effect, we're the CEO's employer. So whatever we want to get done as a group, and we're pretty unified, and we're very unified on this issue. So we're pushing that, and our current CEO, John Benny, is very in support of us and what we're trying to get done, and linking up with the IP from other councils. It's just a really hard one, because a lot of people say to us, "Well, just don't collect it." And then it's a fine line where you're on a tightrope of going into administration. Now, might have to lose the battle to win the war on this one to a degree, because there's many things that I'd like to say publicly and do more, but I don't. I've got to check myself so that I can play the long game and be here for 4 years and make sure I can create a positive change with the rest of us councillors. So that's the hard part. It's like, it's easy to say, "Well, just don't do it." Well, guess what's going to happen if we just don't do it?
My other question then too is, I heard during all the rallies, arrests and all, that basically government's not going to listen to people. We're the peasants. They don't listen to us. And I'm just wondering, is this a matter that needs to be bombarded to the Governor General, whether it's state or federal, rather than talking to the deaf ears of the Labor Party?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, absolutely. But even the show out today, like, look at the demographic in the room. Everyone's older. The younger people my age aren't engaged. They don't care if it doesn't affect me. They don't care. They're just uneducated, because it's going to affect them. It's going to affect everyone and their kids. I just wish there was more people that actually gave us stuff. You guys clearly do, but that's where we're trying to get that to happen and force some change. But it's going to have to be in the election. But this is the problem, isn't it? You've got marginal seats that they throw money at, the fastest growing city in Australia, which is Warragul and Druin, and we're severely underfunded. 6,000 people in Druin when I grew up, now there's 20,000, and we've got exactly the same infrastructure. What's got to give?
Thank you very much, Ben. Following the success of the World War meeting with Ben, we then attended the Shire meeting at Latrobe and received a similar response. This was after a rally of 500 people came to Morwell with a dozen 5 CFA trucks. Farmers were angry, and this one hit a nerve. And there were 2 prominent local farmers that were there on the day. We had David Johnson, who was from Tarago Cheese and been farming for 27 years and currently owns and operates a 450-acre dairy farm with 280 cows in Nearham Sound. He attended a protest in Morwell against this service and this levy, and he said, "I've never been inclined to jump on a train and go support something, but this time I poked the bear." Another local which we all know is Steve Ronalds, a part owner of Gippsland, Jersey, operates a dairy farm in Jindabyne. He says, "Farms are worth a bit of money, but that doesn't mean we have cash. It's the old adage of farmers are often asset rich and cash poor. My point of view as a farmer is that we're already struggling enough." Ronald said that farmers are the ones on the ground that are saving the local community assets, as well as the CFA and the fire brigades. So as a result of that meeting and talking to Sharon, Sharon's here and she's got some words to say. Let's put our hands together for the Deputy Mayor of the
Good morning, everybody, and I, like you, wish we didn't need this meeting, and we really need to rally together because, Ben, you're right, the young ones haven't got a clue. They will soon, which is so wrong. So what do we want? We want you, the people, to stand up and support one another against the levy, or more correctly, the tax, that will see so many people go to the wall. And while the others have spoken a bit about the farmers, my brief was to talk about the industrial and the commercial side of things, because people, they think, oh, it's just the farmers. It's not just the farmers. The farmers are the front line, if you like, but there's more coming, and they just do not see it. And it's going to put people to the wall, and it affects every single ratepayer in Victoria, and that's where we have to get that message through to the latte sipping, whatever you would like to call the Melbourneites. We have to do that, because then potentially they're not listening to the country folk. Hopefully then they will say, oh, hang on, we're going to lose all our seats, and they will actually do something. The cost and effect of local manufacturing, commercial landholders and private homes will see many go bankrupt and shut their doors. Why is this, and how does it work, you may ask? The state government has legislated to impose an emergency services and volunteers tax, wiping away the fire services levy that council has to collect for the state government. And that was further that Ben was saying. This is legislated. We actually don't have a choice. They can press the trigger about that because it's legislated, and if any of the ratepayers go and just pay their actual rates and not the tax, the government can take a proportion of the general rates that are paid for their coffers. So, okay, how many other, or you spoke about different amenities having a band-aid and not being replaced. How much more will that happen if the people, and rightly so, don't pay the tax? We are in a bind, not of our making, and that's where we all have to work together to change this, because people do not understand this. Now, I'm here to speak about the industrial and commercial side of the tax. The industrial increase, as it stands in Latrobe City, and that's the figures I've got, Latrobe City figures, it will be 58%. To highlight how serious this is to our industrial community, I'll give you some more figures. Currently, council collects from the state government just under $3.5 million combined from all of the industrial ratepayers for what was the fire services levy. Yet with the new emergency services levy, there will be an increase of over $2 million across the industrial sector. Some of the industrial businesses will see an increase of tens of thousands of dollars. So what happens if the industrial business decides between the tariffs already smashing them, power and water charges steadily going up, this extra hit is just one too many. It will be for many. If it is you, what would you do? If that was your business, what would you do? Would you stay or would you close? Or even would you be forced to make the decision to choose to lose the roof over your family's head? As we are not talking about a one-off payment, this is each and every year. Industry has taken a beating time and time again with the closures of our power stations and timber industry, yet alone competing against overseas companies and shareholders, and now this. Do you think we'll see an influx of industries wanting to set up shop in Victoria? Would you? I know I wouldn't be rushing out to do it. Rumour has it that already industries are looking to relocate. It must be interesting to see the figures on how many have already left for other states. If you thought industry had it tough, hold on to your hats for the commercial side of this tax. The commercial increase as this tax stands will be an extra 75%, and we will have to collect for the state government, Currently we collect over 1.6 million for the state government from all of the commercial businesses. It will increase to over $2.9 million, an increase to the state government of $1.2 million. And again, I say that's 75%, let that sink in. How many shops are there now? Or how many empty shops are there now? How many businesses are struggling to stay open at the moment? Imagine what this increase will do. It is the straw that broke the camel's back for many, I would suggest. Reportedly, there are shops and commercial businesses that are already cutting hours for the workers. If you want to stay open and cannot decrease the wage bill, where do you think the money will come from? It will come from us. They will be forced to increase their prices to just keep the doors open. Again, would you want to set up a business here? We are doing everything we can to diversify our economy because of the impact of the closures of the power stations and timber industry. This just makes it so much harder to have our valley flourish once again, all through no fault of our own. This is imposed on each and every one of us. You may be able to afford the 26% residential increase that we're all going to have, yet where will you buy your goods when these businesses have to close? Where will your kids get a job? Next time you want sponsorship for your local club, where would you go? As not everybody is able to afford these prices, so again, businesses will be forced to shut. We have people now who are working, yet they need support to put food on their table. So many kids are going to school without food in their stomach. What will you do to help your neighbour if you're lucky enough not to be affected greatly by this? We have always looked after our neighbours. Well, now is the time that we all have to rally together. We need to educate the young. The young don't see this coming. We need to do this. We need to get into the Melbourne, I don't know what to call them. I'm sorry. I just get so frustrated at all of this. But as the gent who asked the question before and gave you some of the answers, some of the people all the agencies that are paying for this, it was just FRV, Fire Services Victoria, and the CFA. Now it is 10. So he's spot on that the money, already we have got so many in FRV and CFA that they haven't got the actual material, the goods, the equipment. Some of it's 30 years old and older. Now they're going to get less. How are they going to do that? So we really need to rally together. This is not just the farmers, the commercial industry. This is all of our problem. So please, we need to work together. Thank you.
Hey Sharon, just interested, you mentioned that there's a different percentage rate for businesses. Just be interested to know your opinion as to why they just haven't brought in an across-the-board kind of increase? Why not, like the fuel excise levy, they just say, well, it's going to increase by 1%. Why do you think they've got this stepped amount? In other words, what we pay as individual ratepayers is going to be different from, say, what a farmer's going to pay, or what a commercial business is going to pay. Just interested in your personal opinion on that.
My personal opinion is, if they had put it to every single ratepayer of 75%, you would have had people screaming from the rafters. I think some of this would be by stealth. They're trying to do it. You know, I wish I could see it different, but that's what I believe.
So we'll get you next. Helen?
Hi. When you say we've got to get it to the young people, how do we do that? Like, my son is like just too busy trying to survive, you know, so he hasn't got brain space and his friends haven't got that time. And I know when I was that age, I didn't, you know, think about it either. But he's a part of the CFMEU, like, I mean, he is a member of the CFMEU. They have toolbox meetings that tell them who to vote for. So how do we get into them? Like, and change that mindset. And the same with, like, probably the same sort of thing with big retail outlets, and get to the employees and actually let them know what's going on. Maybe as a big, you know, because there might be like all the Myer employees in the city and stuff like that. That we get into them.
Yeah, I can still hear you. It's okay.
Yeah, so
how do we get to them?
How can we get to them and educate them so that they listen, they understand?
I think it's a combined effort. I think the UFU speaking to the other unions would be really important for them to, so when they have the toolbox chats and things, it can filter through. I think it needs to come from both ends, filtering down and filtering up. And never ever underestimate the power of having a chat with your son, saying, did you realise? But do it in bite-sized chunks so they understand. Because just to say, even my sons say, oh well, I had a chat with one of them yesterday and he said, oh no, that's just for the country. And I'm going, no, it's not. They really don't understand. So I don't know, over the kitchen table has never been more important than it is now. We have lost the art too much of the conversation. People are too busy on their social media and everything else. But inch by inch we have to, and put it on your social media. Did you realise one chunk, another time something else, and keep on getting the message out. If we all do, then it grows momentum. Write papers into the Herald Sun or the Age or whatever else. Bombard what are they called? Your media, your reporters. Ring them. Say, what about this? This is not just us, and especially the Melbourne ones. Now, I would suggest when the rate notices come out in Melbourne, they might start getting the guests then. But before then, we can do, and we need to.
One more question here. Sorry, Mike's not.
Yeah, no worries. All good. One of the words that keeps coming up is Melbourne. So my brain goes, can we draw a line about Bunyip, Longwarry, thereabouts, and just get rid of Melbourne and run our own state?
Well, it wouldn't be the first time in history that it's been done.
The weekend moment.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Leonie, I don't know if everyone...
Sharon.
Sorry,
How much promo do you need?
So does everyone in the residential side of it know that a $2,000 a house works out, it's about $600 for this fire levy. I've got a 100-acre farm, and that's just over $2,500. And I'm going to tell you that's 189% markup on that. It works out that it's nearly $6,000 for my farm now. But the thing is, getting back to your young ones, Helen and Leonie, I've got a daughter down in Ballarat. She's been renting for 2.5 years, a brand new home, because her partner works for real estate. Now her real estate partner manages Ararat, Maryborough, Ballarat, Bacchus Marsh and Geelong. It's the biggest real estate in the area down in the Western District. And I don't know if everyone doesn't really know this, but I'm just going to bring something to your attention. All these young ones are better off renting because they can't get the money from the bank. The other thing is, poor Joshy, future son-in-law, says to me, Cole, I only had 6 people on the books at Christmas time to rent a house. He said, do you know what the Labor government did between Christmas and New Year? Brought in 150,000 immigrants into this country, and he has got 90 people on the books on the first day of January. Do you think this is wrecking our country? Yes. We haven't got the jobs for our own kids. I've been to the Shire's meetings with Rick. We've listened to the 3.5% increase coming in every 12 months, listening to Danny Goss saying it's going to be good. It's not good. It's coming to everyone, not just one person, everyone.
No, you're right. We haven't got enough houses for our own people. As you know, I'm in Latrobe City. You go into the start of our city, and what have you got? You've got a person living rough in old Gippsland, and that's our own. How can we import more when we can't even look after our own?
Oh, how do they get the houses too when they come?
Well, that's all.
They're all sorted. They're all sorted before they come in.
Yeah, exactly. And it's wrong. Yeah.
One on the back.
Malcolm Dodson, I'm a farmer from Melbourne South, also run a business in Melbourne. But I look at it very simply. The government are not accountable for their spending, and they're putting it onto the public. It's wrong. And every time you turn around with a new tax over the years, capital gains tax, somebody might be working and finally saved up to buy a second house, they can rent it and get income in their retirement. Capital gains tax, fringe benefits tax, luxury car tax still on. We haven't got a currency. And years ago, the man used to go to work and his wife stayed home and brought up the kids, and we made everything in this country. Yes. We're going down the tube at 100 miles an hour, but everyone seems to be employed, but we don't make anything. So what are they doing? We can talk about this till cows come home. I'm over talking. I want action. We need to get this group and 49,000 other groups together and just not pay it. It doesn't matter if it's illegal or what. We don't care. We're just too soft in this country. We whinge and we do nothing.
Can I second that? I'm going to second that. I'd just like to second that. I reckon 3 months' time, how about we get back here and make this twice as big?
Next weekend there is a rally with the United Firefighters Union in Moonee Valley. So, yeah, all go. Get a carpool. Each person, if you can get a carpool, go down, because then you can start to change things. Because at the moment, we're not winning the war.
Hi, Melinda Forrest. We have a farm in Ribblebrook. I just want to relate our farming area in this part of the country to Shep and above. And you see, when you drive up there, you see signs on people's properties saying we are not paying. They're standing firm, and I see that, and I want to take all of us up there and join us with them, because I know what you're saying about don't pay, what happens? Well, the gun is already pointed at our head. You know, take it. Because this is our heart's work. It's not just a piece of land and a few animals. We love our animals and we love the land that we've grown up. My husband's property has been in the family for 90 years. They will just take that away from us. We need to remain productive, or we lose value on our property, which we're not selling anyway, but that's so they can come and take it. I just want to quickly do a little quick rationale that I've worked out in myself the last couple of years. As I was growing up, we were, as children, encouraged to honour our parents. Mum's always right. We had a declaration, we said it in the assembly at school. We're honouring, love God and our country, honour our parents, you know, cheerfully obey our parents, teachers and the law. That was wiped out when I was 9 years old. We didn't do that anymore. At the time I wondered why, and just reflecting on that, our children have not grown up with those same values. Where mum knew best for us, our parents don't really know very much at all for our children. So that's what we've had, and as a single parent working in Melbourne, I didn't even know that was going on. So at the time, in the crucial moment of being able to re-influence my children, I had no idea how they were being underhandedly influenced behind my back. So that's where we're at the moment, trying to get through to our kids. None of mine listen to me, I know nothing. So we've got Buckleys at trying to appeal to them. We need to lead by example, and leading by example means standing on your feet and sticking up for our values. That was the other crucial value as growing up as a kid. Stand up for what you believe in, and if you're not prepared to do that, go home. Pack up now, because we've already lost. I will not pay. I will not pay.
Sorry, thank you for that. You're right with the education. They are being, in my opinion, brainwashed. There are so many things that have gone through by stealth that we, the parents, don't know about, and we don't have rights. Here's not the forum for me to go into some of them, but you're right. I hate to say you were right. And how are we going to bring the morals back into our society? Because that's what led.
I won't be stepped on.
Yeah. No worries.
Thank you. We now have Leonie, who is sometimes called Sharon. But you can call Leonie. She also has a good news story of someone who did stand up. She loved the bush, and actually it was Peter from the CFA, he's still there. He was the one that first came to hear Leonie talk in Druin, and then made some great strides forward. So I just put a hand to Leonie, and what she's done is fantastic.
Yeah, I have to say, it feels a little bit odd to try and come in with a good story right now, but maybe we need one, because it isn't easy, but I think what I'm here to talk about, have we got it? Yes, we have. Okay, cool. Just checking. So basically there is an overlap between what we've been doing with the bush and all the other campaigns. And so my task today is to share a little bit. So the second slide that's going to come up in a second, I basically said, let's start with all the obvious. And the reality is everybody said it. Our farmers, we don't exist without farmers. If they don't have food, we don't eat, because we're made up of that stuff. They're also our community members. They are actually the economic backbone of our community. So without our farmers, we are totally and absolutely screwed. It's just the simplest way to put it. The thing is, we've mostly talked around, say, dairy and cattle, but when we're looking this region of Gippsland, we've got flower farms, we've got vegetable, we've got our spud farmers, we've actually got grains, we've got a whole range of different foods that are actually supplied right out of here, out of Gippsland. So we are the food, one of many food bowls that exist in this country. So I'm here to talk about a little bit of the overlap between the bush campaign and how obviously the issues of protecting and keeping the bush open for people to use overlaps with farmers, but also to go on and say how is it that we're actually on the brink of a win, because maybe some of those take homes I have for how we've won this could be applied to this situation. So in terms of the Bush campaign, the obvious three things that I would say that stand out is that, first of all, we have to bust the myth that national parks are actually the best way to maintain our natural environment. They are not. The second myth that we need to bust is that basically you as bush users can do everything in a national park that you can do in a state forest. You cannot. Then there's the obvious things around the impact of having poorly managed national parks on farmers. And they consist of the noxious weeds. Farmers are constantly trying to get weeds out of their farmland because it impacts their ability to actually work the land. And yet, if you don't have your national parks well looked after and well maintained, noxious weeds are quite horrendous in terms of the overgrowth. And that does lead into the fact that the greater the overload of the weeds on the ground, fire mitigation becomes a massive problem. Wildfires come from overgrown national parks and state parks that are not looked after, and then state forests. There are three different ones. We then also see the impact of wild animals and feral animals. So feral animals consist of foxes and rabbits and dogs and cats. An example was given here just a couple of weeks ago that in 2 nights 30,000 chickens were lost due to wild dogs. That decimates the chicken farmers. There goes our eggs. Goodness knows we've got enough trouble trying to get eggs as well. Wild animals such as deer and pig and goats, they all enter into farming land. They eat the feed, they interfere with the land, they damage it, they break up the soil, they interfere all the time. So those are major issues that we need to have them managed in the forests so they don't impact our farmers. And as I said, wildfires are a risk to farmers as well as to their stock. We've seen that happen around here, and it's devastating to watch that happen. So farmers not only play a role in being able to help through CFA and all the rest of it, but they're also trying to keep their farms safe from fires and these wild animals and the noxious weeds to actually feed back into supporting what's around them in the bush. In terms of the proposed Great Forest National Park, yes. All right. Basically, last year, Engage Victoria and the Eminent Panel handed in their reports to the Minister. And then this year in May, the Great Outdoors Task Force, they handed in their recommendation. So something that's really interesting, and I know this is going to be a little controversial to say in a room that probably really doesn't like the Labor government right now, and trust me, I'm not saying I do, but what I'm going to say is that something happened, and it came through pressure, and it came through hard-fought people power that meant that the Minister for the Environment, Steve Demopoulos, was given an instruction to find a way to make sure no more national parks were recommended. So the bottom line we know is Engage Victoria and the Eminent Panel were people who were very pro-national parks. So to overcome that, Steve actually set up the Great Outdoors Task Force, and he gave them one instruction: do not recommend national parks, find other solutions for our bush. And that gave our campaign an opportunity, really? Okay, an opportunity to basically lobby in such a way that we could find out how we could get the ear of the government to make sure that they would do exactly what we wanted them to do. And that's basically what we're doing. So we're waiting for Steve to hand down his actual report. But we know through leaks, you know how governments leak everything. So he's been saying to unions there will be no national park, and there'll actually be no Great Forest National Park, which covers from Gippsland up into the Central Highlands. So the last 2 weeks, Rick said to me, did you see that article? Apparently the minister's done a backflip. The reality is that the backflip was what the Greenies are all talking about. So the conservationists saying they promised us this and now they've backflipped and they're not going to do a national park. The bottom line is there were no promises at all. They just say that to manipulate people. So this week I put a letter to the editor spelling out the truth about the reports that they actually are referring to. So they go out and say 89% of Victorians support more national parks. The government should do it. The truth is that report, they didn't ever ask that question for one. And they've basically gone on to say things like, do you like being in the bush? Do you like national parks? And people, well, who doesn't like the bush? So they've gone, well, 84% said they did, so now they want more national parks. So you have to look at the arguments, you've got to go to the facts, and you've got to then counter-react to, with facts, where they've lied and manipulated people, because they're trying to do it in such a way that they convince everyone that, yeah, that you are looking for, that you are wrong if you don't support the majority. So, the conservationists are really furious with us. That's a great sign, because it means they've accepted, don't like it, but they've accepted that they've lost. Yes. Okay, what is it that then brings us to our success? We had a diverse team of people on our committee. We had people who were wanting to be boots on the ground. They weren't interested in leading. They were happy to just do the job. And we need people who don't want to be the heroes, but they do want to be out there pushing, talking to people, handing out little flyers, doing all sorts of really fun things that just got people's attention. We did indeed have a very charismatic Facebook page leader, and I will say that she definitely does it differently than how I do, but it works for the people that need it to be there. We had a lot of passionate bush users that had connections that didn't even realise the connections that they had, but some of those opened doors for us that we weren't expecting, and we jumped right in. We also had the analyst, the researcher, and the legislation interpreter, as I call him. And he went in and dug it all out to find it so we could really argue the arguments that needed to be argued. Then we had the political strategist, that happened to be me, and the little people manager that managed the committee to keep everyone focused on one single goal, which was no more national parks in the Central Highlands, and to basically stop it. We were successful. The way that we did it was we did education. So by getting a unified message that everybody spoke the same words, we had forums, we had multiple of them, and we made sure that everyone walked away with take-homes, simple things to repeat and say everywhere they went, which meant that there wasn't confusion, there wasn't infighting, there wasn't, oh, I don't agree with that. Everybody had the same message. Do you notice that that's exactly how we keep losing? The powers to be, Labor government, the spin doctors, the Greens, the conservationists have a united message that out-manipulates us. They're wrong, for the record, their message is false. So we actually have to come back with a unified message that actually gets it out there. Bottom line is we brought everybody on the journey. We had lots of transparency, lots of unity in decision making. We spoke about solutions while acknowledging the issues. And that's really important as well, because that way then we were not in denial of what was going on, but we're saying let's find a way. Basically, that led to, we actually had a meeting with the minister, and in that meeting, he actually said to us, I really like your solutions. You're the only person, the only group who's bringing solutions to us. The Greens are just trying to intimidate us and say, do what we want or otherwise watch out. And that, I don't know whether I should say this out loud. Say it. Okay, it really pissed the minister off. Seriously, there's one thing you have to say. Politicians don't like being told what to do. Right? We weren't telling you what to do. We were saying, we get these issues, but here's our solutions. He said, write them down. Give me a reason to out-argue the pressure I'm under. This book right here is what we put together, and I wrote it. Out of my head, of every memory of every single thing I heard in every forum and every suggestion everyone had, I put it into words. And what this does is it spells it out as here's the reason why this issue matters. Here's the policy, the legislation you already have in place, and here is our list of recommendations and solutions to those issues that you have. Anybody who's interested in having a copy, we're only now down to, Rick just took my last copy, we're only down to electronic, but I have a piece of paper here. You are welcome to put your name onto it, and I will email you a copy so you can actually have a look at it. So thank you. This is the fastest speech I've ever given.
Right, Jerry. Just wondering if you're aware, I had a logging contractor call into my workshop the other day, an ex-logging contractor, and his son, who used to have a big logging contract in the bush, is now being paid by the government for the next 5 years to destroy, I don't know how many roads, but he's making roads, wiping them out and levelling them, and digging all the concrete up and then trucking that out of the forest. And he's trying to find out what the government are paying for the logging trucks to come from Tasmania, and they've tried everything and they cannot find out what we as taxpayers are paying for those logs to come over the ferry. So I was quite surprised that they're going to destroy, so that's not going to help our firefighting in the next fire.
Yeah, and that's the bit, I mean, when it comes to the bush thing, we have like the logging industry. Hang on, where do you start with that whole conversation? The difficulty is that the green component keep bringing up logging. And in actual fact, one of the moments that I actually had really early in this campaign was I got phoned, and then it became like a group of people on a phone call, and it was all like a fabulous little ambush to yell and scream and threaten me that if I ever stood for a parliament election ever again, they'd destroy me. And I was like, okay, thanks. Knock yourselves out. But inside of that was one of the green people who are quoted all the time, so I won't name her name because she'll sue me because that's what she does. She basically said on that phone call is that not only was stopping logging happening in the general forest was their goal, they were now coming after private landowners who actually do logging as well, because they want to control what you do on your private land. So they aren't going to stop, there's no doubt. So there's a logging aspect, and part of what we would argue is that the roads being maintained by those loggers are really important. And fire mitigation, which was also listed as one of the things that the funding for this tax is going to go in towards, is keeping those roads open. But there is no doubt at all that, as we keep saying, those living in the city do not understand the importance of keeping all of those roads closed up. So by trying to keep the greenies happy by shutting the roads down and go, look, we're not doing anything. But what you'll see if you go and watch any of those conservation's pages is they will show you that they've just gone and pulled down some trees as a fire break, and they're saying that's logging. So they call just protection of the land because they really want it locked up and left alone. But they want you to go for a nice bushwalk and do some forest therapy. And that's it. So the very thing they're trying to create will create more wildfires. So I guess what I'd say in terms of that is, yes, that's true. Yes, they are paying lots of money. They basically bought out mills. I mean, this is not quite this issue, but it's still stuff we've been doing for a while. Basically bought out mills, paid them to not work, get rid of all of the argument, and this is one of the things I'll say all the time. I'll say, well, once the industry's gone, we'll never be able to get it back. Do you know what? Seriously, to use a Ben thing, bullshit. They're starting new industries all the time. You can always bring back an industry. You can always recreate it. If we accept that, we've just bought into their lie and we've lost the cause already. Don't buy into their lies. Now, I'm going to do a whole trend moment of passion here, but don't buy into their lies, see through the crap, call it what it is, and keep naming it. We know what the bush needs. One of the positive campaigns we did after we met with the minister was we sent him 2,500 postcards. Some of them may have been signed by people's chickens. Some of those people, I'm not even sure who some of the people that Lucy put on the envelope. But the point was we sent in a thing saying, thank you for keeping the bush open. The front postcard was noxious weeds completely covering over a forest part around Woods Point. And basically said, thanks for keeping the bush open. You know the balance is already there. Thank you for allowing us to go into the bush and continue to do family time. Well, we sent all these positive messages about all the benefits, which is what's written in here. So the reality is we counteract their lies with facts and truth, and we counteract their division with unity. And then we just do a whole lot of that a lot.
So from the wharf to one sawmill, it's approximately $6,000 and something per truckload, is what I have been told. Thanks, Leonie, for being part of movement, and Carly has obviously suffered greatly for her face in that Facebook program and so forth. But I think the message is quite clear. Standing together makes a difference, so let's do it.
Great. Just in relation to your thing about the cost of sending logs across, we receive about, I think it's about 41 log trucks come across from Bass Strait every week to supply the ash timber mill up in Hayfield with wood. The federal government actually subsidises that $20 million per year, Just recently, they gave $15 million. The federal government gave $15 million in grants to 5 Tasmanian sawmills so that they would supply wood to Victoria.
So when I was talking to Peter at the CFA this morning, he was saying the posters were good, but they didn't actually know who did them or who organised the event. So it's actually a good point. We should have put a phone number there and also explain who we are. We're a small group of people. There's only half a dozen of us who met originally in the park during COVID to say, no, we won't comply with those medical mandates. We want free medical choice, and we promote free medical choice, but also free speech. So there's Jeremy behind, there's Trevor over there, there's Cole, all the amazing women in the background there that we meet each week. And for that very reason, we're trying to bring an awakening to the local community that there is an ulterior motive to actually try and control us and treat us like pawns. And I'll just, by way of introducing Wade, is from Billboard Battalion. It's a grassroots community movement aimed at public education, what's truly happening regarding the COVID, food supply issues, and the media will not tell the truth. So they're creating their own media to deliver a message in a way that's highly effective, visible, and impossible to censor. So let's put our hands together for Wade.
Hello everybody. It's good here to see we've got a full house. So well done to the organisers for a start. You've done a terrific job, and well done to the community members who have come here out into Traralgon. I was thinking of Traralgon because that was the last time I spoke was down at Traralgon at the when they shut down the logging down there. So we were invited to come down to Traralgon to speak on behalf of the logging industry and what's happening generally speaking. So I'm Wade Northhausen. I'm a 3rd generation dairy farmer from North Central Vic. Not dairy farming anymore because the industry is going to crap. And we've found a new thing that we need to do in so much as getting around the country. We tour around Australia with Billboard Battalion and we try and educate people on what's happening in the real world in real terms. We'll bring the information to people that in many cases we don't like. You know, we shoot straight and I cop a lot of flack because we do that. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who don't shoot straight, don't tell you the truth. That's why we're in the trouble we're in. So, the main thing that I talk about is the big picture stuff. And all over Australia we hear lots of people talk about issues, individual issues, regional issues, that kind of thing. But what we need to understand is that everything that's happening that's going bad in our country is by design. What? So once again, I talk about the big picture stuff. Over the last 5 years, since the COVID fraud started, we've had a lot of people called the freedom movement, and a lot of these people, although they try very hard and do a terrific job, they don't have the experience to understand what's really happening here. So I first started doing this in the early 1980s. My parents helped us set up a group called Bankwatch. That was starting to identify that the banks were illegally sending farmers broke. They were taking over their land, they were sending them bankrupt, and they were starting to put together portfolios for what we now see is the international takeover of Australian, not only farmland, but the entire country. So, we hear some of our councillors here today who are doing a terrific job of talking about what's happening. The whole state tax that's a complete fraud. We hear people talk about it's Jacinda Allen trying to fix the budget. That's a load of crap. It's got nothing to do with it. What she's doing is she's following instructions from Davos in Switzerland. That's what's happening. That's why this is happening. And we need to have a bit of a look, matter of fact, a real serious look at the whole big picture stuff. And just for people who may not know, for the last, and let's just say for the fact that something people can comprehend, it's been a lot longer. well, let's just say for the last half a century, or since the end of World War II, when they set up the United Nations. This plan has been put into action, it's been in action for actually centuries. But here we are at the point end of the stick, because now they have the technology to do what they want to do. That's what this is all about. So, who has heard of a bloke called Tedros Scumbagus? Okay, well done. That's probably about a third of the people here in this room for those who are watching. So, who knows what he is? Okay, so he's the Director General of the World Health Organisation. And as of yesterday, he now owns Australia. Now that might frighten a few people or shock a few people. They're going to shake their heads and go, uh-oh, here we go, Wade's gone nuts again. In fact, did you know that as of midnight last night, as far as I'm aware, I've heard nothing to the contrary, Australia now became inseparably tied up to the World Health Organisation through the International Pandemic Treaty. Now, I talk to a lot of people who go on about the Constitution. And there's a lot of people in the freedom movement. In fact, I've known for years and years, decades, people who talk about the Constitution. And many of them say, oh, this bloke or that bloke or someone, they're an incredible source of information, know everything about the Constitution. And they talk about 1973, when Gough Whitlam took Australia from a Commonwealth to a corporation. So let me just say that as of yesterday, they just blew up the Australian Constitution. It no longer exists. And they did that through this international treaty. So, where are we at and why am I talking here? Why do I talk about farmers? Because I've been doing this for a long, long time. And as I said, we travel Australia trying to educate people. And what we've got is a situation where our politicians collectively have sold us out to the United Nations and the World Health Organisation, and now we are in massive, massive trouble. So the biggest single impact on our farmers, on our landholders, is with respect, is not a state tax. It is not anything. It is the fact that now these people who hate us, they are in the business of getting rid of people, and in particular farmers and food production, because their agenda is a depopulation agenda. And these people are very, very serious about this. And now they have the capacity to do exactly what they want to do. So in terms of our farmers, how does this affect us? The international health regulations now must be legislated by the Australian Parliament to give these parasite scum total control of our country. And what they call a pandemic agreement or a pandemic treaty, they will now incorporate into that what they call climate change. So they will now say that is a pandemic. And they also incorporate what they call One Health. And One Health is they get total control over every single element of everything on the globe. So therefore, they are in the business of shutting down our farms. And now under the pandemic of climate change, they will have the power to do that. So with respect, again, we're talking about our forests, our national parks, etc., etc. This just trumps everything we've done. This gives them the power, and this has been their plan. This is what they've been working towards for 50 years. The Greenies really haven't got a brain in their head. But they are what they call useful idiots. The powers that be have been using the Greenies, the animal liberationists, all these lefties, the universities, the schools. We heard, yes, you were talking about Sharon, did this right. Now, Shaz here was talking about the schools. The schools have been teaching our kids how to be nothings. They're going with this stupid transgender crap. All this, you can be whatever you want, idiotic nonsense. instead of teaching them about the stuff I'm talking about right now. Our constitution, our way of government, our security of our nation. During the whole pandemic thing, we saw our cops being turned against us, our military being turned against us, our medical institutions turned against us. Why is that? Because at the top level, our military are completely corrupt. At the top level, our cops are corrupt. At the top level, the medical institutions, our politicians, because they've all got the message, they're going to do this anyway, so you're better off to conform, don't fight it. This happened to us with the Murray-Darling Basin plan. I spoke to many people in big business, the dairy corporations, who said, we've got the message, they're going to do the Murray-Darling Basin plan no matter what, so there's no point fighting it. This is how they corrupt our politicians, our bureaucracies. They put them through these other things called universities, and they're just left-wing education centres, and that means you don't think. You don't do what's right. You are not a patriot. You sell out your country, because that's what's happened. All our top-level everythings we've got have sold out our country. And when I said about the Constitution, they talk about a one-world government, so people need to get their mind right and understand that you don't have a constitution. A one-world government means Australian jurisdiction does not exist. They're dismantling it. And that's where the only thing that we have effective left to fight with now is we the people. That's our weapon. That's our only weapon we have left. And the most important thing in that is the messaging that we use, is the wording, is the bringing together of people to fight as one force. That's it, one force. Now, we also heard before about messaging, and I won't even dare say your name because I'll get it wrong. You're just wrong with Bob. So the messaging is critically clear. We have all these different groups and organisations who are running around the countryside doing everything, but they don't use the right messaging. And we need to have a combined, because the government showed us how to do it. You have one single message, no one breaks ranks, and they frighten the hell out of people. You have to, because that's the only thing that motivates anybody. If they think they're going to lose something, that's the only thing that motivates them. And we saw with the COVID fraud and the biological weapons they injected into everybody. They took rational, normal, intelligent people and forced them to go and roll up their sleeve and take a lethal injection. Now, you can do that. You must have a united front. You must, and in this case, tell the truth, because that's what's lacking. We get all our people, they're too frightened to tell the truth. Well, I just told it to you. I've run meetings all over Australia, and many in metropolitan areas. And I'll have people at the end of it, and I'll normally do a 2.5 hour presentation, who will end up in tears, bawling their head off, frightened the hell out of them. But they say, whatever you do, Wade, you must keep doing this, because people need to know what's really happening. They need to know the truth, because I guarantee you, your lives literally depend on it. If you give us stuff about your kids or your grandkids or your families, then you get on this war, because this is the government's war against you right now. Because these people, if you look at the history that I do, I've probably gone a bit over there. Zero, I'm not sure what zero means. I think that means another 10 minutes. You just forgot the one. So, as I said, the most important thing is to fight for your families, because they are coming to take them out. That's the plan. This is a military invasion, a military attack force. The United Nations is not a peacekeeping anything. A bunch of low-life scum should be lined up against a brick wall, and a lot of noise should then happen.
So, I encourage everyone to actually do that, because that would be
Exactly. Would I suggest such a thing? Good God. Anyway, my phone says it's 13 minutes, 10 seconds. I probably went a little bit overboard, but anyway, that's what I do. These people would have known that before I got here. So that's probably why I've got another half hour. Thanks very much for that. We'll undoubtedly open up to a few people who have pens on everywhere. Okay, we'll have
my name's Karen. I'm very inspired by your words, but nothing was mentioned about digital ID, and that's my big concern. How do we say no to that? It's insidious. The kids are just dumbed down. It's going to be easy for them, but once they get all our information, you've used up all your carbon credits or whatever. You can't buy those groceries anymore because you've been a bad boy. So to me, as part of this UN push, digital ID is a worry to me.
Absolutely, and thanks for that question. So yes, digital identification, central bank digital currency, your carbon credit, and your ESG. That is your. That's the four things that they're going to attack us with. Unless we wipe that out, we're over. It's done. It's finished. Game over. So, what do we do about that? We start to identify who is actually in the community, in the country, who is fighting the fight in real terms. That's me. I'm not some political party. I'm not some left-wing lobby group, although Clive Palmer has accused us of being lefties. Not really sure how they work that out. But anyhow, so at the end of the day, we need to, as everybody, fight against exactly what you're saying. Because we are only months away from it's over. It's too late. You can't do a thing about it. Go and make your arrangements. And it's literally the case. So we need to, right now, start to pull our communities together and start to fund Billboard Battalion against the politicians. We need to get on the politicians' case like a ballistic missile, because they are the ones who have created this problem. They've known that they're creating it. They've deliberately set us up. So we need to do whatever we can to push back. Theoretically, we have 2 years before we can even look at getting out of this agreement. By then, it'll be over. We've heard people, I hear people talk about the next election cycle, the next 2 or 3 election cycles. There isn't going to be that. You're on drugs if you think there is. Forget it. That's over. Let's do what we need to do now. We've had many, many groups and organisations that should have been informing you, our councils, our state politicians, our federal politicians, our media, our farmer representative lobby groups. Now, I've been on the farmer representative lobby groups' cases for decades to say this is what they're doing, this is what's coming, and not one of them will actually tell their members the truth. I stood for the presidency of the Victorian Farmers Federation in 2016 on that platform. I'm on the case of the National Farmers Federation, have been for years. I stood against David Johinke for that presidency of the VFF. He's now the president of the National Farmers Federation. And how to demonstrate what I believe is a complete sellout. The ex-CEO of the NFF is a bloke called Tony Marr. Now, one of the big ticket items that are attacking our farmers is this renewable energy crap. Your windmills, your solar panels, all these transmission lines. And just to put it on the record like I always do, we need base load power coming from coal-fired electricity. That's absolutely the case. And they are in the business of blowing it up because they are deliberately in the business of destroying this country. That is their objectives. This is their instructions from the likes of the United Nations. These are the people, that's what they're doing. So we need to make sure that we start to push our representative lobby groups to educate us. As I said, Tony Marr, ex-CEO, National Farmers Federation, supposed to fight for farmers, has resigned and is now the Commissioner in charge of renewable infrastructure. So I put it to you, there is an incestuous and corrupt relationship between people who get to that level and the politicians and the governments. David Joe Hinkley, his place is crawling in windmills. So let's understand, we need to push back, we need to motivate, and we need to get stuck into the politicians and all our groups. The Victorian Farmers Federation, I just had a meeting with the new president of that, Brett Hosking, only a few days ago, and Brett, I think I started to put the fear of God into poor old Brett, and as to what's happening. So he has said, okay, let's look at the VFF and Billboard Battalion maybe starting to work together. So I think that is something that's very good, and I think we need to start looking at everybody in this room here today. Don't just leave here and go home and think, oh, I went to a meeting last week and I'm back to look, I've got to milk cows, got to put some hay out for beef, he's got to put a bit of crop in, I'm too busy. Well, you're going to too busy yourself to, there's nothing left of your farms, your business. Your central bank digital currency, one day you'll wake up and your money is gone. They will change what you are allowed to spend. You will have an ESG score that will shut down your ability to buy anything. And that is a programmable currency. There's no cash, and they tell you what you are allowed to buy, and then they will shut it down based on the carbon cost of it to where you cannot afford to live. This is literally the situation where we are. And a lot of the time we got there because the people who know don't do anything about it. Next question.
Not a question actually why, but it goes on what Leonie said before.
Yep.
That we have to concentrate locally. We have to start at the base groups and a common front. And can I quote the Price Minister where he said, without properly constituted local self-government, there is no stable or prosperous society, and the very concept of civic freedom loses all meaning. And Solzhenitsyn spent 6 years in a prison camp, where he wrote a little book called One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. 6 years when it was 38 degrees below, they didn't have to go out and work. So you can't say communists are not soft-hearted. So when Leonie says that, and you said that we want a common front, there it is. We're quoting a Nobel Prize winner who, in the camp, when one day went down on his knees and said, "Thank you, God, without the suffering I wouldn't have learned." So I heard you a couple of weeks ago, Wade, the first time ever, and you said that the Constitution, the freedom fighters, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. In the background, and Solzhenitsyn said, the tide is over you and you can't keep its breath. And that's us in Australia today. So I'll finish and offer that as a suggestion. And Sharon, I won't ask you any questions. My disgust for the councillors, the poorly led councillors since December 2nd, 1994, when they destroyed local self-government, the very thing that we were on the way to doing it, we put the cities of Colwyn, Murray, Maul, Rodman, and one other I've forgotten. A sale, Gippsland's first city. They wiped it out with a stroke of a pen. So again, I'll finish off with the council. That's our common front. We can use Solzhenitsyn as a Nobel Prize winner. I won't even start to talk about the other Nobel Prize winner, which is Sharon's never been mentioned in Latrobe City. He was born in Tyrol because it was Gary's name was Ricardo Burnett. Born 1895, died 1980 in Port Fairy. So what he said was, I'm going to finish here, right? What he basically said was,
Can I ask a question, please?
The needle. So thank you, Wayne. That's my suggestion.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. And the most important thing, yes, we do need grassroots and community membership, and our councillors are, whether it's right or wrong, our councillors are that, they have that capacity. The councils in Australia signed up to Agenda 21 years ago. That's a big problem. But what we do need is quality of information. And people can't act on something if they don't have the correct information. And that's one of the things that we do. That's why, you know, we need communities to support Billboard Battalion in what we do. We need community groups to support, plus financial support. There's a huge amount of money in the ag sector. There's a huge amount of money in the tradies and union sector. And we need to get some of that to us so we can expand what we do. That is absolutely crucial. That is critical. So thanks for that. And a lot of what you're saying is correct. I've got a few other people here I've got to get on to too. Young lady up there, Belinda, I think it is.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, and I'm going to say this name, the White Hats, you know who they are with us on this? Or do they exist?
Sorry, say again, Belinda.
The White Hats?
Okay.
Okay. I know, I'm putting myself on saying those words, but I need to know the truth about that too, so I think we really do.
And so, I probably shouldn't have done that, but you know, I've got lots of mates who are ex-military and they have blues with that. I mean, we have discussions about the White Hats. So, I think for a number of years now, the White Hats have been sitting off the coast of Australia and shit's ready to take the people into custody. Yes, take the lockdowns when they come, martial all this other crap. They've got huge amounts of troops up in Northern Australia, which they possibly do have, which I think are UN. They're not us. So, my opinion on the White Hats, who are supposed to be working under Q, which is Trump, blah, blah, blah. My opinion is, I'm going to fight for my country. I'm going to fight. Well, I think I'm going to fight for my country shoulder to shoulder with everybody here, right now. Now, if at some point we're on the battleground fighting for our country, and we hear the bugles blowing and we see the White Hats coming across the hills from somewhere back there, then bring the firepower. Come on, match up shoulder to shoulder with us. But until I actually see something on the ground that happens in real terms, whatever. White Hats, who knows, could be.
Just in regards to that in real terms, can you make it tangibly available for all of us so we can take it?
Just sorry, say again, Linda.
When is it going to be that we can come and stand with you? And
Well, it's now.
well, I know, but you know, I don't know. I've been doing it on my own for quite a while, and I'm just accepting that I'm a crazy person. That's
Well, here's the tip. Number one, you're not crazy. You're probably a better Australian than most of the ones that are going around. So, you know, and we tour a lot of Australia, and we go and we hold town hall meetings, and we get Belindas all the time pop up and say, thank God Billboard Battalion's here. You know, you're standing up the front leading this thing. I thought I was the only one. You know, we're glad to see there's other people in Australia who are not, I'm not crazy. Everyone else tells me I am.
yeah.
So, you're not. This is real. We are on the edge of no longer being here. If that's literally where we're at. Chris.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a question, and I'd like you to pose that question to the audience after you have answered my question. The question is, okay, I'm a political refugee from a country that's taken over by communism, and this is what Australia is going through right now. Okay. The question I'm going to ask Wade is this. All these government departments are body corporates, and under corporate law, under statute law, when they become bankrupt, they have to be closed down. Victorian government is bankrupt. It needs to be closed down under law. Okay. But if we took them to court, they own the judiciary, we're not going to win. Okay. Yes, we're having a meeting this weekend with constitutional lawyers regarding what is the future, how we do it. And that's the question I'm going to be posing to them. But what I really do agree with Wade is building communities. It is absolutely essential. And within those communities, you need to let the people have the say on what to do. Okay? Each community should be operating as one. Okay? And I have some solutions for that, but Wade, what do you think?
So, communities, absolutely. But we have a community, we've got a country. And we have a source of government that we need to make it work. We need to take it back. It's been corrupted. It's been taken over by foreign military, by foreign entities. And, you know, I hear a lot of people talk about PMAs. I hear a lot of people talking about doing their own thing. The thing is, the people with the most guns wins. And at the minute, that's the government and our military. And I mean, the topic you're talking about is very, very long. It's huge. It is. And we don't have time here today because our time frame's expired. But I know where you're going with that, Chris. And community is everything. Yes. That's what we need to focus on, but we need to have structure. And if you don't have structure, you have what you have now. We're getting our head handed to us on a plate. Yeah. So, and I'll certainly have that discussion with you, but you know, the good people here don't have the time now. They've got a tucker on the table there ready to go. So I really, really do want to say a big thank you to the organisers of this today, to the people who have come here, the other speakers, done a magnificent job. Thank you so much. And I'll probably take the opportunity now to hand it back to Rick, who leads our visiting operation.
So we're all talking about saying, use the words and be truthful. I had a politician said this to me, governments can't go broke. And I went, how to explain the current Labor government? And they said, we just tax you more, we've always got money. Yep.
So this has been a thank you to all the speakers, to BK, Benny who's there, Shaz 1, Shaz 2. And Wade, would you like to get together again in a couple of months' time and see what progress is being made and what's been happening, because a lot will happen in the world. So hands up for those who'd like to come again. All right, we'll do that. And thank you all to everybody. And feel free to ask questions. These people will stay back for a cuppa. And plenty of questions. One last thing for the Trap News. If the 5 speakers could go outside for a photo, please.
Would you do that for me?
Thank you very much.